Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. When I got the email asking me to come, at first I was like, am I being punked? Do they really want me here? This feels like such an honor, and it really does. So thank you tremendously for having me. I am the director of impact for an organization called Taste the Local Difference. And I have been running businesses since I was pregnant with my son, so 20 years ago. I started my first business, and I've had many different businesses of all types and sizes since. And I've also helped run businesses for other people as well. Actually, part of how Alicia found me maybe was because I was on the Thriving Farmer podcast, Michael Kilpatrick's Thriving Farmer podcast, and that was actually the first farm that I ever worked on, and then I actually helped him a lot with his business, and that was sort of my entry into the world of farming. I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs and micro enterprises on helping them to grow their business really sustainably. I am also, as was mentioned, a former farmer and beekeeper. When I say farmer, definitely micro farming. We lived in a small village in upstate New York, and I literally tore up my front lawn because it was the only spot at my house that got enough sunlight, and I grew greens and herbs and sold them locally, and then I kept bees at a local dairy farm nearby. I am in sort of unintentional food access advocate. So in January of 2016, I had the immense honor of being able to testify before the members of the House Subcommittee on Ag and Nutrition and share my family's story of being an active duty military family receiving food assistance. It feels really special that that testimony lives on, that I get to be a voice for something that is unfortunately so common. And so I know that last night, I was talking to several folks here who are veterans or veteran spouses. I'm sure there are many other veterans in the room and maybe even some active duty folks. And so that was sort of my foray into that world. And it is very interconnected with ag, right? Feeding people. I'm really glad that Benjamin mentioned, was talking about feeding people yesterday. And there are so many stats that many of you may already know, especially if you are from military backgrounds, of the overlap between the military community and the farming community. They're really integral, so I always just love to bring that up. And I'm a huge local food enthusiast as well. Ironically, my grandfather, who I was unfortunately not super close with, but had a produce wholesaling business in Chicago that my parents actually worked at when I was just a baby. I have no memory of this at all, and even before I was born. And so even though they were in the world of agriculture tangentially, I didn't grow up going to the farmer's market or anything. My mom is a really great cook, but I did not grow up in the world of ag or anything like it. So I say all this to say all of these things, my whole intent was I was just gonna be a high school English teacher, and I was for 1 year. But all of these things like entrepreneur, business consultant, working in ag in multiple different ways, food access, being a champion for local food. I never anticipated that any of these things would be my life. And I say that to say that usually with marketing, people feel very overwhelmed and they're like, I could never do this. I could never market. I could never understand any of this. But the reality is that you can. I never would have thought any of these things I would do. I promise you, marketing is not as daunting as it seems, and I'm really good at simplifying things. So we're gonna do this together, and I promise you can market your farm. And I will say too, I feel like Benjamin yesterday sort of unintentionally set my talk up really well, because at the end on one of his last slides at the top, it said, what story do you want to tell? And really what we're gonna be talking about today and what marketing is it's simply sharing your story with the people who are excited to hear it. And yeah, that's basically what like branding, the core of branding is. And even in everything that I was just telling you about myself, there might be some people who heard that and heard little parts of it and were like, ooh, that was interesting. Like, I would like to hear more about that, or I would like to talk to you more about that later, Erika. And conversely, I know last night there was a gentleman who, over there, like grew up on their farm and farms it with their brother, and you know, like for me, somebody who has lived a myriad of places and did not, you know, mostly lived in cities my whole life, and didn't live in more rural settings until like later on. I'm like, wow, that's fascinating. I want to hear more about that story, right? To me, that I find that really compelling. So that's the core of marketing, is just sharing your story with people who are excited to hear about it. So just a little bit about TLD, where I currently work. So I only came to TLD last May. Before that, I was just working with people on my own in my own business, but we solely do marketing for farms and food businesses. So we know local food. We are champions of local food. We are the experts in local food. So if you're like, I have questions, I need help, please, please, please don't ever feel bad about reaching out to us. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So why bother with a brand at all, right? If you're not, you know, Nike or Amazon or whatever, why bother with a brand? So I want you to think for just a minute, think about a business that you love supporting. Doesn't matter what size, but a business that you regularly recommend to people, that even if maybe their costs went up and so they had to raise their prices, you might be like, dang, that stinks. Like, I don't want to have to pay more, but you would, because you're like, you know what, okay, I get it. Like, I still want to support you. I still like what you're doing. I still, you know, feel like, you know, I want to see you stay in business. Think about that company, that business for a minute. And then think about 1 to 3 adjectives that you would use to describe that company. How you would like how they make you feel, or how you would describe them to a friend, anything like that. Does anyone have one that they are willing to share? Anyone? I'll call on you. I said I was an English teacher. Okay, go for it.
So the company that came to mind for me was Mayhem Meats. They're this little meat processor out of Lusk, Wyoming, but we live in the southern Black Hills, so they're close to us, and we buy goat from them.
Okay, so Mayhem Meats, buying goat from them, okay.
And the big deal is goat. It's hard to find, so their product matters to us. But yeah, it's just this family, so family would be another one.
Okay, so family.
Yep.
And goat, hard to find product. Quality, and also quality product. Yeah, okay.
And then I guess the last one is just local, right? Like, that's how we found them, and that matters to us.
Local, awesome, perfect. And so I am willing to bet from what you just said there that, well, also because you said it's what matters to you, but that local is one of your like purchasing values then, correct? Okay, same. See, as I already mentioned, I'm a local food enthusiast, so you might be like, oh, I vibe with Erika's brand, right? Like, okay, so it's all a setup. This is all a setup, you guys. Okay, so yes, okay, so there's a meat company that is local, they have high quality products, and they are family owned, right? So, great. Does anyone have a different one that they want to share? Even like maybe more of like a national one, like maybe something that is a bit more corporate that people would know? Anyone? Nobody? Okay, all right. I won't make you. But here's why it matters, right? So, and really why those companies put a lot of money, like big companies put millions of dollars into their brand, and why they like also put hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars into legally defending their brand, because it becomes such an integral part of how people see them and think about them, right? Your brand is also another way to think about your brand is it's what people say about you when you're not in the room. It's what people would tell their friends about you. It's how people feel about you when they interact with you, right? So right now, whether you realize it or not, whether you've been intentional about it or not, you have a brand. Your business has a brand. And you probably, I would imagine that all of you probably have raving fans, even if it's just one or a handful, that love what you do, love what you sell, and tell other people about it. And if you can find out from them what it is they say, you will realize the brand that you have already cultivated, right? So it's more than a logo. We automatically think, most of us, when we think about branding, we think, oh, the logo. We think the Nike swoosh or, John Deere green and yellow, right? And yes, that's part of branding, but it is the soul of your business. It shapes perception and it builds trust. This is why people, or companies can rebrand. They can change their logo, they can change their colors, they can do all that. But it still is all about the trust that people feel with that brand, right? And trust takes time to build, but trust is essential. There is a thing in marketing where people have to, it's called know, like, and trust. So before people can spend money with you, they have to know you exist, right? Then they have to like you. And by like, they don't necessarily have to personally like you, but they have to like your product or like what you're all about, right? The product has to be the right thing for them. But then they have to trust that the product is going to be worth it. It's going to be worth the dollars that they're going to spend, which is why I said that even if a company had to raise their prices, if you trusted them enough, you would be like, well, this is a bummer, but I'm still gonna spend it with you because I trust you, right? So trust is the final thing that people need to have before they pay you. Always, always, always. And even for all of you, trust is what you need before you give money to anyone, unless you have to, because it's like your utility bill. You have to have that trust there. So the benefits of the strong brand is that it's gonna build the trust and credibility. It's gonna differentiate you in the marketplace. So it's gonna, if you sell beef and 20 other people locally sell beef, you have to show why your beef is different from the other beef. And you are gonna increase your customer loyalty and your repeat business with your brand. So first, defining your brand's core. So before you even get to visuals or anything like that, you gotta think about your mission and your vision. So why you do what you do and where you want to go. And a lot of this, and don't worry, I have a free thing at the end that you can download and you can spend some time on and do some reflection this weekend on, because a lot of these are sort of bigger questions and things to think about and reflect on. But really thinking about, right, what is your mission and vision? And this could depend, right, wherever you're at in your farming journey, especially if you've been at it a while, you may not have thought about this in a while, right? You may be at a totally different stage where you're like, I'm actually getting ready to retire or pass it on, right? And your mission and vision could be very different now than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. Or if you're just starting out, it's a really great time to be intentional about what is your mission and vision going forward, because it's gonna inform a lot of your stuff. A lot of your marketing stuff that you're gonna be thinking about and creating later. And then also your values, right? So your shared values are gonna resonate with customers and build loyalty. So more so than an Amazon, right? So in Amazon, we're kind of just stuck with Amazon, right? If you need to use Amazon, you just use Amazon, whether, whether we like it or not at this point, right? But one of the benefits of having a small business is that you really get to let your values shine through in that. And that is something that is really special. So don't feel afraid to infuse your values into what you do, right? Because in the example of the, purchasing locally, if you really amplify the fact that like, yeah, we're right here and we just, harvest this 2 days ago and now we're bringing it to you and we're selling it fresh. For somebody that values that, that is really important. Sort of like Benjamin was saying yesterday with the, the restaurant of like, we harvest these vegetables this morning and now we're serving it to you tonight, right? Some people will pay a lot of money for that, right? And then also your unique selling proposition. So what makes you unique? So this is how you stand out from the competition, right? Even if you also have other regenerative farmers nearby, even if you also use, if you have value-added products and you use other locally sourced ingredients in them, even if you have similar overlapping things to your competition, there is still only one you, right? There is still only one story of you and your farm. You might also be regenerative, like the other regenerative person, but you might be the 4th generation on your farm, and they might be beginning farmers. That doesn't make one better or worse. They're 2 different stories. They're 2 different really cool ways to brand and market your farm. Oh wait, actually, I'm gonna go back really quick. So a few things I wanna point out. So this is a really cool business in Detroit called Folk. And I'm gonna talk at the end about this top part of your website. A lot of times it's called the above the fold. So if you know from like, when people were reading actual newspapers, everything's online now, but they're folded. And so the top part of the newspaper, the above the fold, is like the highest amount of real estate because it's the thing that people will, if they're gonna skim, if they're gonna look quickly, they're gonna look above the fold on the newspaper, right? So similarly on a website, this top part, the part that people land on first, that is where you really wanna capture people and hook them. And they are doing a really great job here. I think maybe we actually did the website for them, But yeah, so I wanted to point out some ways that they're actually doing what I'm talking about, right? So they are saying experience folk. So right there, they're telling you, even without you like consciously realizing it, that when you go to folk, it's going to be an experience. You're not just gonna like walk in and plunk down some money on the register and then leave. You're probably going to have an experience, right? They're also telling you where community meets quality, right? So they're telling you 2 of their values right there, community and quality. Without, beating you over the head with it, you already know that. And then spend your Detroit days with us. So they're telling you like, we're in Detroit, right? And we want you to spend time here. That the whole point of this space and how they've set it up is that like you come in and you can eat and you can get some coffee, and then you can hang out with your friends, and then you can shop, right? So there's a lot going on in very few words, in very little real estate. So this is kind of one of the cool things about your story and about marketing and branding and all of that in general. It doesn't have to be this big, huge, heavy lift. You just have to be intentional about like, what do I want to get across? And then share that. So then we get to visuals. So this is a farm that Taste the Local Difference did all of their visual branding for. And again, right here, in their logo, organic produce, flowers, and local groceries. It tells you a lot about what you can expect from this business in just a tiny little bit of words and real estate. And what's really cool, so this is where you have, your logos, your colors, typography is just a fancy word for fonts, and your packaging, and then consistent aesthetics across platforms. So as you can see, all of these labels all look the same, except they're slightly different colors. So if you're walking through a shop and you're familiar with this brand, we are very good at processing things visually and then immediately thinking things in our mind, like in the back of our mind before the front of our mind even realizes it, right? So if you've shopped with this brand before or whatever, or you've heard of them, like if you're walking along, like the back of your brain, your subconscious is immediately like, oh, that's Lakeview Hill Farm, right? Even if you've never seen like the arugula, but you've seen their spring mix, you immediately know that must be from that same brand because it looks cohesive to everything else, right? So if you have a brand that is designed for you and you have multiple products, this is why it's great to have them all very like cohesive so they go together, because it creates that brand recognition for people. And then there is your voice and tone. So now brand visuals is sort of like a level up. A lot of people, that's hard to do on your own. Can you do it in like Canva and some other tools? Yes, but voice and tone you can do on your own. Think about your target audience and think about also how you want to sound yourself in your brand. And then just know that like, it can be however you want it to be. I also don't know why it's coming through a little bit weird and overlapped on this thing. Sorry about that. But it says, our gourmet garlic is bonkers good. You're gonna love it, trust us. Or don't settle for anything but the best. Our heirloom garlic bulbs are uncontested. Come to our farm store to get a taste of our excellent farm fresh garlic. And maybe there are some of you where you can think of people, at your farmer's market or local farm store or wherever, that have very like funny or iconic or memorable brand voices, right? It's totally fine if you would not talk a certain way in your brand voice. Like, I don't want anyone to force it, but also don't feel afraid to have a brand voice that is a brand voice that feels natural to you. So at Taste the Local Difference, we are very intentional that we are casual, approachable experts. So we don't want to shy away from our expertise, but we also are friendly and we're approachable, right? So a lot of the way that we might talk is not going to be overly formal. Like, we're going to use contractions, right? We're going to write out how we would actually be talking rather than like very formal academic language, even though we're speaking as experts because we are experts, right? Because that is how it's the intent, like we're being very intentional about that is our brand voice. And you can be very intentional about that as well. And the important thing to remember in all of this is that, because this is where you might be like, yeah, but I don't know, what if that like the way that feels very like natural to me, or the way that like I want my brand to be, or that feels like my brand should be, or feels very aligned, like not every single person on the planet or in my community or wherever, like, they're not all gonna love it. And I want to remind you that the point of a business is not to have everybody be your ideal customer, right? Your brand should attract the people who are the most aligned to what you're trying to do. And I know it feels scary to think about, actually perfect timing because Benjamin just walked in, was talking about abundance and scarcity yesterday. It feels scary to potentially like repel people, right? Especially when there's such small margins in farming, every dollar through the door counts, right? However, the more that you can really attract the people who are going to be your biggest raving fans, your most loyal customers, the people who then tell other people who are like them, like, you gotta check out this goat meat farm, right? Like, that is going to have a bigger impact because you won't be paddling upstream, right? It's going to be a lot easier the more that you try to keep everything aligned all through this process. And then also it's really important, as I mentioned before, so share that why behind your business, right? So think about creating that emotional response. You can use humor, nostalgia, or other sentiments to form a genuine connection. It's really good to remember that at the end of the day, you're just people selling to people, right? So you're just trying to form connection with other people so that they resonate with you, so that they feel like, yeah, I want to patronize this business, right? And also, don't feel like you have to be static, right? Get personal. Explain how your experience makes you an expert and how you're uniquely suited to meet the needs of your customers. So again, going back to the example of if you're, both regenerative and you're, both selling in the same area, but one is a beginning farmer and one is a fourth generation farmer, and that neither is better or worse, when you share your story, you can each be uniquely qualified for your customers. You're just gonna have different reasons why, and you're just gonna need to tell your story in a different way, right? Again, neither is right or wrong, neither is bad or good. You just need to make your case for why you are great at what you do and why folks should be buying from you. And then as you are sharing your story, it's good to enhance it with visuals. So having good quality photos and videos give more context to those written words. Again, we're really visual people. Just going back to that example of the Lakeview Hill farm, it's really awesome to have amazing visuals paired with your words, because visuals tell a story as well. And the way that you capture those visuals and the way that you put them across is also going to convey the tone of your brand, right? So if you want to have a really fun and lighthearted brand, you can do that. You can do that with your visuals. So one of the ones that I was actually thinking of as I was driving here from the airport that I love is I love how Wall Drug does their branding. And probably if you live here, maybe it's annoying, maybe you're or maybe you just get immune to it because you see it so much. But I am somebody who loves to laugh. I love to make jokes, I love humor. And so I love that they are so corny. I love that they try to use humor to reel you in. I love that it's so goofy and it's so over the top, everything they do. It really resonates with me. It speaks to me. I imagine for some people it probably doesn't, but I'm oh my gosh, they're all of their little billboards, all of their silly signs and everything. I'm I just love it. It does it for me. But it's also good to know that you need to adapt the story and the visuals to fit the medium, right? So on a Wall Drug sign, they can't write a whole paragraph. You're not gonna see it as you're driving. So as you're thinking about the different parts of your brand, you can have more verbiage, more text on your website than you would a social media post or a postcard or something like that. Okay, so now we'll get into it. And again, we should have time, I think, to for some questions and stuff like that. But everything I just covered, if you're Erika, I still don't know. This is all these existential questions about me and who we are as a company, all of that. I don't know how to tell my story. Again, I'll have a free resource at the end that you can print out, you can sit with, you can go through and reflect on, and it's gonna help clarify all of that for you. But now let's imagine for a second that you know your brand, you know your values and your mission and your vision and the vibe and your voice, and you kind of know all of those things. So now what? How are you gonna do it on a budget to get that across to folks so you can get more loyal buyers? Because no use growing all this stuff if you can't sell it, right? So social media. Now, don't worry, I'm not gonna tell you you have to be on every platform and you have to be posting 1 million times a week or anything like that. You certainly do not, but it is really good at the bare minimum on the major platforms to have a profile and have a presence. At least if it just directs to your other things, because you never know who is going to be searching where. So for instance, if I'm traveling to a city or different place, wherever, a lot of times I will use Instagram to look up things. I'll use it as a search engine, right? And so I may just go there, find businesses, and then go directly to their website, but it's good to still have a presence there, even if you're not going to be posting regularly. And similarly, Facebook and really primarily right now, it's mainly, Instagram and Facebook, I would say, are the core ones. But make sure that, again, just like with consistency and visuals on packaging, have consistency across your social media. And right now is a great time when it's, a little bit slower to go through and do an audit of your channels if you already have them. Because inevitably things will just get out of date, right? You'll need to update different things periodically as time goes on. Winter is a great time to just go back and make sure all your links are working, everything is updated and accurate. But it's a great idea to have your picture be your logo, right? So that, again, it's that brand recognition, it's memorable. And if you have the real estate, like on Facebook, it has the larger banner, either have it also be branded or something that is like a very intentional, photo of your farm, or like something that is going to really stand out as part of your farm or your business, or something that aligns with your brand. But you can also set up some branded graphic templates that are in your brand colors and fonts as well, that are going to make posting on social media easier throughout the year. Also make sure that your bio on all of the platforms is maximized. This is free real estate for you. And that it's all accurate, and especially that people know where you are. One of the things that people often do or forget to do is put like their location and stuff on where they are. So people won't actually know where you are, or maybe where you sell, and things like that. So this is an example of one of our clients. And so things to think about, the who, the what, the where, and then any bonus extra info here. So make sure you're being clear, relatable, and aligned with those brand values, and then location-specific details and findability is really helpful. So as you can see right there, cultivating community, they're conveying what they're all about. Small farm in the Keweenaw, so that's their location. They have vegetables, flowers, and more. And then they're telling you right there, for winter season, order sourdough bread via the link below, right? Very easy. There's a ton of great information about this business, again, in a very small bit of real estate. And this is, 100% free. So just make sure that it is optimized. Because the other thing is that potential buyers have a very short attention span, and they will get frustrated easily, and they don't want to have to hunt, right? So make it as easy as possible for people. So this is another farm that we worked with. They're really awesome goat farm. They have, they do meat, they do soap, they have agritourism, they do these goat hikes. They're so cool. We just had our, the company's 20th anniversary, this cool farm to table event there last September. So they are, female owned, farms had goats, cheeses, heritage pork, lamb, address, and then they have their, you can see land stewardship through agriculture, right? So that tells you right there what they're all about. Female owned, farms had goat, cheeses, heritage pork and lamb, eggs and produce, and apothecary, AWA and USDA organic. Boom, right? A lot in a little bit of space. And similarly, I know I didn't, I'm gonna stop talking so you can look at this. While that scrolls, it's the email template. There we go. So I know I didn't show a Facebook example there, but also if you have a Facebook page, go through and make sure that similarly, all of the company info, the about info, all of that, make sure that is all up to date as well. And even contact info on there, sometimes if you have a different email address now or anything that you prefer people to reach out to, switch that up as well. So email marketing. I'm curious, who in here does email marketing already for their business? You do? Just one? Really? Just one person? Oh my gosh. Please, I'll do email marketing. I'm gonna pass out. Okay, so that's great. Okay, so you do email marketing. What platform do you use for email marketing?
I think we use it through our Vindictive site. So we don't market to the general public, we market to our 3 existing clients.
Okay, great. So the people who've already purchased, you remarket to them. Okay. Who has a website that they've built on like Squarespace or Wix or one of those for their business? You do? Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. So they're already in those is the little like thing, the pop-up or whatever. There's options that are built in for email. There are other services for email like MailChimp and MailerLite and Kit, all sorts of different ones that you can use. But even in a lot of the website building platforms or e-commerce platforms already, they are, email marketing is built in. So does anyone know the top marketing, how do I want to say this? Like the number one driver of sales. Like if we were talking, of social media, email, whatever, all the different things, the number one thing that leads to sales, like the number one type of marketing that leads to sales. That's how I want to say it. Email. You're close. Email's number 2. What was it? No? Yes, word of mouth. Thank you. So word of mouth is still number 1. And the reason why goes back to what I said at the beginning, trust. So if somebody you trust tells you they trust another business, they are transferring that trust automatically, right? So it's a lot easier. You're like, oh, I trust Jim, and Jim says that they trust this business, so therefore I will probably trust that business too, right? But the number 2, even though we all get tons and tons and tons of email, is email. She was right. So email is really crucial. Email is also one of, besides when you have your own website, which I'll talk about in just a second, is one of the only marketing things that you own. So, yes, social media is free unless you're using like Meta ads or something like that, but you do not own it. And at any point in time, their AI crawler bots can think that like something is up with your account and they can completely lock you out of it. And you could lose all of that work and all of the reach of communicating with those customers, right? You own your email list, which means that every person that has opted in to be on your email list, you can keep communicating with them and you can move them from platform to platform and keep talking to them, right? It becomes a value asset in your business, something you actually own. It is so vital. It is so vital. Please, it's so vital. And I know it can maybe feel scary or overwhelming. I mean, not scary, but like overwhelming or like, it's another thing I have to learn. But the thing the animation I showed was a template. A lot of them, you can set up templates or you can hire somebody to help you set up a template. And when I worked that farm I worked for, Michael Kilpatrick's first farm was called, now his farm is called Farm on Central. His first farm was Kilpatrick Family Farm. I started out as a weekend market worker. He was my CSA farmer. And then I ended up taking over his newsletter, and we had a template we used in MailChimp, and it was very easy. Once a week, he would just give me updates of what had happened that week on the farm and some photos. I'd pop them in. I'd pop in what was in the CSA that week. I'd pop in a recipe, and then we'd send it out to our people, right? So email marketing is great because email marketing can also be automated. You can schedule it in advance, things to go out. So when it's a Monday and you're working in the office and you want to send out an email on Thursday about what's happening at what you're bringing to the Saturday market or whatever, you can schedule that when you're in the office on Monday to go out Thursday. You can also set up automated campaigns that when somebody opts into your list, like signs up to be on your list, that they get dripped out and you don't actually have to manually remember to email them. It just drips out, hey, here's what we're all about, or hey, here's a coupon, or hey, da-da-da, we know all these different things. So it's marketing to them while you are doing other higher value work for your time, or sleeping, or relaxing. So that is really, really, really great. It also is a way they can communicate back and forth with you more easily as well. And it's not subject to an algorithm, right? Yes, sometimes emails go to spam or other folders or whatever, but there's not really an algorithm to it like there is social media. Yeah.
For email, my experience with email is I get so much junk in my email that everything that I don't know goes to spam because it's almost all spam. So how did for the email, are you thinking just email to existing clients, or are you thinking it's good for a more broad campaign to get your message out?
That is a great question. I'll talk about that in 1 second. Is that right? Because that's a great question, and it's going to tie in with, because I'm going to talk about websites really quick, and I'll tie it all into both, because yeah, that's an excellent question. So the last thing I want to talk about is also your website, because again, you own this, right? So a lot of times people will just use their social media as their website. Again, you do not own it. Mark Zuckerberg could destroy your business at any second. I hate to tell you, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but like your website is an asset that you own. And so it is really, really, really important to have another place that people can find you, right? A place that you have total control over. And it's also great for search, right? You can link your Google business profile to it, which Google business profile is also great to have. It's totally free. And this was a farm that we worked on. This is actually really close to me. It's very cool. They took an old golf course and have completely revitalized it, doing like permaculture. It's actually that photo of me at the beginning. We took company photos there. It's so cool. Like you Google it. It's in like Ann Arbor, Michigan, or like near Ann Arbor, Michigan. It's amazing. You would not even think it used to be a golf course. It's incredible. But make sure that on your website, even it doesn't have to be super complex website, but your business name is really clear. Have a logo in the proper file format so it's not grainy, doesn't show a white box around it in the dark mode. So when you download an image, make sure it's that .png file, and that will have a transparent background. Make sure your font is consistent across all your marketing materials. So whatever fonts you choose, just roll with it. You can even in like Canva set up some basic branding stuff, but again, whatever you choose, just keep it consistent, and that your brand colors are represented all throughout. Because again, remember, like the eye is gonna work with your brain to be like, oh yeah, that's such and such business, because it's gonna know that it's all cohesive and consistent. And like I was talking about before with folk, that top part of the website, just use it wisely. So capture attention with a clear and compelling brand message. So when you think about, what is it that you want to be known for? What is it that the message you want to get across? So this is TLDs, so we know local food and how to sell it, right? Easy, boom. We know local food, we know how to sell it. Tells you a lot in a little. And this is like a fun thing to do. Like you can do this with your friends. You can do this like work with each other, be like, what do you think about this? Does this make sense? Like you can refine it, right? You can workshop this, right? And also don't get too frustrated of like, oh, it has to be perfect, or I have to get it right out of the gate, or I'll never make another dime or whatever. No, I've had many businesses for years and I've refined. Get it good enough, and then you'll get inspiration while you're washing dishes or doing something out in the field one day, and you'll be like, oh wait, I think I want to change that word to this word or whatever. It's all good, it's fine. or work with a professional, and we can help you. It's fine. Like, I don't want anyone to stress about marketing. There's way too many other things to stress about in the world to stress about marketing. Just get it good enough. And then make sure you're also using your brand voice and sharing your unique brand story. Again, so don't worry if you don't have like a super professional, like uptight, brand voice or anything. Fine. Okay, great. Thank you. Don't stress about like making it sound really academic and formal. You don't have to. Use high quality images and make sure that the text is legible with the images. Look at it both on your desktop and mobile. So just make sure nothing looks like funky or isn't like overlapping in a weird way, because you want to make sure that, again, when a customer or potential customer lands on it, that they don't feel frustrated trying to find things and trying to navigate. And then make sure your navigation tabs make sense and work properly and all your info is correct on your site. So just go through and check that links aren't broken, that any like ordering info or anything like that is correct. And again, this is something you can do with a friend. Be like, have a couple friends look through it and just give you their feedback. Was it easy to use? Could they find everything, stuff like that? And then make tweaks from there. So I'm gonna give you this free thing, and then I'm gonna answer the email question. I'm gonna tell you how it ties all in with all of this. So you can open your camera on your phone, and you should be able to scan this. If not, I'll tell you how to get there otherwise. And then you'll put in your info, and it's gonna email you this brand and storytelling writing workbook. And it's gonna have prompts that will help you. And then on the next slide will be my contact info. You can certainly reach out. So when it comes to this, and this is actually a perfect example, right? So you're all opting in to get this. You can also opt out anytime if you want to. But so with email marketing, so when you have a website, you can have people on the pop-up or just on like an inline form or whatever, they can opt in for different things. So that could be a newsletter, that could be a coupon, that could be an ebook, that could be a guide, that could be all sorts of things, depending on your business, depending on what makes sense for you. And then they get that thing sent to their email. So they automatically get that thing sent to their email as a thank you for signing up. So those people have like raised their hand digitally to say, yeah, I want this thing, and like I want to hear from you, right? So then you can keep emailing them. And the thing about that is that if you have a brand, going all the way back to the beginning, if you've been intentional, you've set up your brand, you're marketing to the people that are already the most likely to resonate with your brand, because again, you're not trying to market to everyone. You're not trying to make everyone happy. You're just trying to market to the people who are gonna be most aligned with your brand. They are going to not feel like it's spam. Right away, like let's say they don't find it digitally. Let's say you're in person at market and you have a QR code or something like that, and you say like, hey, scan this QR code and we'll give you this book of, 10 recipes on whatever, how to use our product, right? You can set up emails that automatically go out that are like, hey, thanks for signing up, and like, you're gonna, over the next 10 days, you're gonna get a few more emails about us, right? Then you can send them an email about your story. Tell them your story. Tell them why you got started, or that you grew up on your farm, or why you became a farmer like unintentionally, right? And all of that. You can send them another email about like why you love what you do, or what, like a day in the life or a behind the scenes or anything, like all of these different things. Then you can give them some other like value add about your products or your customers, 3 favorite things to do with your garlic, or any of those things, right? So you are already showing them what it's like to engage with your brand, right? What your brand is like. If you have a silly fun brand, you might have silly fun emails that go out with silly fun subject lines, right? Or if you like to use emojis, right? They might be in the subject lines and things like that as well. You can put photos in the bodies of the email. You can do all of these things that sort of nurture and warm people up to who you are. 2 minutes, okay. And then that way you will know, like, people will not view it as spam, especially if you are engaging with them regularly. If you're sending a weekly or bi-weekly newsletter, they will feel good. They won't see it as like, all this person is trying to do is sell to me, right? They'll be like, oh, I like these people. These are great. Like, I want to engage with them. I want to go shop at the farmer's market, or I want to place another online order or whatever, right? So that is how you get around the, like, what is this swipe, you know? It's by being very intentional at the beginning of, what is my brand and how do I want people to feel when they engage with my brand? And because of that, how am I going to start proactively engaging with them when they raise their hand to say, like, sure, yeah, I'll get emails from you, right? Because that way you're building a relationship, you're having a dialogue rather than just like, buy my thing, buy my thing, buy my thing. So hopefully that helps. Cool. All right, I think that's my time, right? Is that my time?
You got time for a couple questions.
A couple questions? Okay. Oh, I'll switch it to, you can take, there's my contact info. So also that is, one thing I want to say too, so on localfoodmarketing.com, there's a resources tab, and we have so many other free resources. We have webinars, upcoming and past recorded. We have other downloadable guides. We have articles. We have a million different things that are gonna take the confusion out of marketing for you. And there's also my contact info. Don't ever hesitate to reach out. Ooh, sorry, Canva took it away. So it's localfoodmarketing.com or Erika with a K at localdifference.com. No, not .com, I'm sorry. Erika at localdifference.org. And I also have some cards and stuff too. But the thing that I want to say too is a lot of times for the heavier lift marketing stuff, like building websites, e-commerce, and the brand design, people get really overwhelmed trying to do it on their own, and they get really stressed out about, like, how am I gonna pay for it or whatever. Even though we're very intentionally affordable, I do wanna say too, like, because I was talking to the gal from FSA out there yesterday, there are microloans, there are grants, there are all sorts of things. Please, 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 like, when you are thinking about all the stuff that you can invest in, don't forget you can do that with marketing. Like, please reach out and let us be a resource for you. Please reach out and, like, oh, and I was talking to the regional food business centers. I was telling them yesterday, right? Like, it helps your grant so much if you come prepared with a proposal that says, we're gonna work with this company, they are experts, we're getting these services, rather than just like marketing, right? It shows that you are serious. So please don't ever feel bad or like you're bothering us by reaching out. Like, we're here to help. We want you all to succeed. And so please reach out, talk to us. We can demystify it. We can tell you what things cost. We can, work, like, help you budget, help you get verbiage to put in your grant, all of those things, or your microloan or whatever the heck it is, because we want you to be able to have these tools, and we know it can be difficult to sometimes try to figure it out and do it all on your own. So, yeah. Anything else? Any questions? Yes.
Explain the value of comparing your marketing efforts.
Yeah, like explaining like why somebody should come to the farmer's market and everything. Yeah, so that's a great question. So it's good. So one thing that is important when thinking about saying why you're different from the competition is I don't view it as like, it shouldn't be through the lens of a negative campaign. Like when you think about campaign ads, I don't mean do this like a negative campaign ad. Like you should shop with us because the competition, they're horrible. I don't think that is wise. I think that you should talk about, like, you should uplift why you are awesome for your ideal client rather than like, putting the competition down. But I think it's good to think about, like, what are all the things that your ideal clients and your raving fans, what do they rave about? What do they talk about, right? And then tell that story, share that story. Like, what are all the benefits, right? So if it's a farmer's market, right? Like, what are the benefits of the farmer's market? It is not just you roll up, you get some stuff, and then you take off and run the rest of your errands. Like, if you're a parent, you can bring your kids. Like, if there's music, if there's events, if there's, I know the market I used to work at, like, the Cooperative Extension would have a master gardener there with great information, right? Like, there's so much, so like, right, this is the marketer in me. I'm like, tagline, there's so much more at the market, right? Like, that's a great tagline. Somebody use that tagline unless it's already copyrighted. But like, you know, so like there's so much more at the market. And then talk about what are all of the things that you have at your farmer's market and why somebody should carve out like 2 hours, I don't know, 2 hours or something, maybe that's too long, an hour to hang out at the market and like get prepared food and get coffee and walk around and, you know, get their fruits and their vegetables and their meats and their dairy and a bouquet of flowers and let their kids do the coloring sheets and listen to the music and like all of those things, and how it kind of like how it becomes an experience rather than just like a transaction, right? So if you convey that story as part of the brand of your farmer's market, then people start to think like, oh yeah, that's right, it's not just shopping. It's their farmer's market is a whole experience. Does that help? Cool, that was a great question. Thank you. I'm done. Okay, thank you all so much. This is great. And please reach out, I have cards.